50,000 words, that's easy mode. Let's talk about National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. I hit the 50,000 word mark, I think yesterday, without too much difficulty, but I wanted to make a little bit of a video updating some stuff with National Novel Writing Month and what I was sort of exhibiting at the beginning of the month, talking about showcasing my process for book creation, four-phase process, planning, drafting, revision, and publication. And I was going to try to do that in 30 days. And the point of that was, first of all, to challenge myself, because I enjoy a good challenge, but also to show that you can do things that some people consider very, very large tasks within limited time frames. You can do things on time and under budget if you know what you're doing. And the key to knowing what you're doing in this regard is being able to plan your process and the way you're going to execute your process correctly, plan your book properly, and know how these four phases are going to work and have a lot of experience being able to do them. So I'm completely on time. In fact, I'm actually a little bit ahead of schedule for the 50,000 word mark, which is what most people try to do throughout the entire month. I have 10 days left to think about stuff. But I wanted to really talk about one kind of critical mistake that I made with planning. And that mistake was actually not accounting for all the missed days that I was going to have. I accounted for, in my plan, I think four missed days. In fact, I think I have it here, so I can just show that to you guys right here. So I actually planned for 4 missed days. I've already had those 4 missed days. One of them was really today, because I was taking care of some kids of the family, because schools now are doing like a whole week off from Thanksgiving, yet other people still need to work. So I lost the day today, lost a couple of days. I spent a whole week traveling. I spent 6 days traveling, and in that time on the road, it was very, very difficult to get stuff out, but I still managed to get a little bit done while I was traveling. Got more done when I came back, obviously. So those 4 lost days, I've already had those, and I'm probably going to lose 3 to 4 more before the end of the month. November turns out is a really, really bad month to do this sort of thing because of the amount of family commitment that I have and that I think most people have with Thanksgiving. A better month to do National Novel Writing Month would probably be February, because you got those 3-day weekends, especially if you're still in school. That gives you a lot of extra time to do stuff and kind of work around your other schedule. Just a thing here there. However, the lost days are not really the big mistake that I made. That was a small mistake, but I overcame it pretty easily. I hit the 50,000 words. The problem is, if I show you my book, here it is. There's more chapters. I'm not done, right? So the 50,000 word mark doesn't encompass the entire novel. And I knew that I'd probably go over by about 10,000 words. In fact, I kind of planned for it. That's why I gave myself some extra time. Kind of thought, well, 50,000 words. I've written a 50,000 word book. Prophet of the God Seed was 50,000 words. But I'm like, this plot that I had in mind, it was a really good plot I came up with. I'm like, it's going to take a little bit longer to execute. It's going to take 55,000, 60,000 words. Now, my original plan was also, this is another part of my mistakes. My original plan was to make a manuscript that had no B story. I wanted to write a story with no B story, all A story. That's just primary plot. And I ended up adding a B story. However, I don't think the book would be nearly as good without that B story, and that's why I put it in. I really felt like it had meaning for the story that I was trying to write and would really improve everything that's going on and would make all the plot twists just that much better. And I think it is working. I wrote a pretty tight little climax last night. So I just kind of wrote up to this big climax. Things are coming down and resolving, and then we're going to have one more big climax before the end. So I'm really about 60%, maybe 65% into the book. Now, if I was just trying to draft in November, that's 10 more days. I could easily finish the book. In fact, that's probably what I'll plan. But the problem was I didn't plan properly for the 30 days process to actually work. And here's the big mistake I made. I planned out, I was going 50,000 words by the 22nd. I wanted to get it on the 20th. Today's the 20th. I actually got it last night, but I wanted to get it on the 20th. I could have till the 22nd to get to the 50,000 words. I was using the wrong metric to make all of my mini goals. So the way that I think about constructing little goals, or you're designing the process to accomplish the goals, is you look at the goal and then you create lots of little steps along the way to help you keeping track on your progress to the goal. So the process becomes all of these little mini steps, And what I made as my metric was word count, because that's what NaNoWriMo focuses on, is that 50,000 word count. But that's not really the way that people think of books. They don't sit there and like, oh, here's a 50,000 word book, or like, oh, I got to write 50,000 words to make this book. You write the story until the story's done, and then it's going to be whatever it's going to be. My books tend to be, and you actually can plan length to a certain extent, and I do, but not all stories can you just go, 50,000 words and it's done. I should have been focusing on, this is what the thing that I'll correct the next time I do this. Maybe I'll do another 30-day run in February, like I said, a little better month without massive family commitments taking up tons of time that would otherwise be free for work. Instead of saying I'm going to write 2,500 words per day to get to 50,000 words in this day. So I got to 50,000 words in 18 days, a little bit over 2 weeks. So I could do better than that. Instead of going, I'm going to write 2,500 words per day, on this day, I'm going to get to this point in the plot, which I've previously written. On this next day, I'm going to get to this point in the plot. So I think I demonstrated this on a live stream. I used the 6-plot plan to kind of help me, construct the pacing of the story on the big scale. I don't always use that, but I linked it. I think it was the Plot Dot by Derek Murphy, who's an indie author, as well as like a great resource for independent publishing with his book covers and marketing resources and things like that. So if you don't know who Derek Murphy is, he's a good guy to know of. Guy from Portland, Oregon. Very nice, generous guy. Anyway, so he has this thing called Plot Dot, help you construct your 6 essential scenes to help make your fiction have these good connecting points. It's based on kind of like hero's journey kind of stuff. So I had these 6 plot things, and I should have looked at 18 days, 6 plot points. Should have been day 2, day 3. I'm at number 1. Day 5, you're at number 2, on down until you get to the 20th day and you're writing the final battle. You're writing the last part of it. Now, the advantage to looking at it from that particular perspective is that in any given day, you have to be pushing forward towards where the next plot event is going to happen. So maybe that ends up being a couple more words on a certain day or something like that, but you're aware of how much more in the process you have to go through. So it kind of gets you in that battle mentality more often. That I have to get this plot point written tonight. I got to do this today. So kind of get you going to really work hard on some of these individual days to meet those little mini deadlines, meet the little mini goals. And in that way, if I had actually done it that way, I would have written more than 50,000 words. I would have written 75,000 words. My intention is that this book's probably going to wrap up at about 75,000 words, possibly to 80 based on the way I'm plotting it now, which makes it a little bit longer, but about as long as I thought I might end up adding by adding a B story. I kind of knew that this might happen. Because a B story, if you think about like ABC stories, the B story is half as long as the A story in terms of total volume of the story it ends up kind of adding and taking up. And then if you add like a C story, that's another half of the B story is what it ends up being. And that's kind of an interesting way to think of subplots. If your subplots are taking up more time than the main plot, then the reader gets annoyed or confused that you're not focusing on the thing that they really care about, the main plot goal. So then that's my expectation. Once I was really starting to develop a B story, I'm like, well, it's going to add to the book. I should have known it would add that full 25,000, not just 10,000 words. So anyway, if I had planned it that way, if I'd said, on rather than looking at my process plan and saying, well, I'm going to write 2,500 words a day and I'm going to get there in 20 days as my process. I should have gone, hey, I'm going to get to on November, I did my planning on November 1st. I should have said on November 4th, I'm going to get to the first plot point. November 6th, I'm going to get to the first, pinch point based on that six plot point idea. November 9th, I'm going to be at this this midway point, and down the list. And by the time I got to today, I would have actually been working really hard to just finish the book up this week before Thanksgiving. Then I'd have all of next week to revise it and start planning for the publication process. So what am I going to do to adjust? Well, I'm going to continue pushing and see how quickly I can actually finish this book. So right now I have 10 more days. I have about 25,000 more words to write. That's 2,500 words a day. That's easy mode. For me, 2,500 words a day at this point is just really not that hard to get to at all. 2,500 words is about my average so far, and that's with like more than 4 lost days, possibly 5. So even though it took me 18 days to get to the 50,000 word mark, I'd probably say it actually took me 14 days because there was 4 days where I just didn't really write anything, or where I was writing just maybe a couple hundred words on my phone. I did this on a Google document so I could just whip it out on my phone and like write 100 words with my little Bluetooth keyboard. So I've really lost a lot of days. So it's really 2 weeks to get a book. There's authors that if they had more free time, they'd probably do that in a week. In fact, I probably, if I didn't have all the other stuff that I had going on, I'd probably already be done with the entire draft. If all I had to do was write all day. But I don't have that. I have massive other obligations, including, children and things like that. So, which we all do. Most people do. So you have to plan with your obligations in mind. So with that, I could easily finish this draft by December 1st. Then we're, instead of looking at 30 days to publish, we're looking at 40 days to publish. Kind of have to add 10 days onto it to get this longer book. But I might try it again for the sequel to Prophet of the Godseed for Deep Time Part 2, because that was a 50,000 word novel. I kind of have this little format in mind that kind of gets to 50,000 words and feels like a good long solid episode of Star Trek, and so I might do that for Deep Time 2. Just try to do that like in February, and again showcase the process, and then maybe generate like some resources for other writers or other authors to think about how I do that process in a condensed amount of time. I've gotten comments, and I'll probably make a video sort of on this. There's always naysayers. There's always people that are like, you can't do this. Operating out in like the business world, it's all about being on time and under budget. And if you really know what you're doing, being able to scale a project down and finish it on time is really, really important. And the scaling that happens in the planning period, that's where I messed up. I didn't scale something to 50,000 words. I should have, when I looked at this plot and came up with it, I should have gone, I'll write this book next. Let's do Deep Time Part 2 because I can hit that one in 50,000 words easily. But this was it was kind of where my passion was, kind of where my heart was. It's actually a sequel to Water of Awakening. That's what it is. Cat's out of the bag now, guys. So if you don't have Water of Awakening yet, you can get it. It's like still 99-cent ebook. If you're absolutely broke, hop on my mailing list. I'll be sending out free copies of this pretty soon again. So make sure you're on it, dvspress.com/list, and you'll get the free copy of this. So it's a sequel to this, set in the same world, different characters though, and it's like a sequel with different characters, but I like the characters from the first one. But don't worry, they'll all be back. So for the long-term planning of the series, don't worry, they'll all be back. But I wanted to do a sort of a follow-up story with new characters and a little bit different geographic location, different style of story to really change things up. And we'll bring all the heroes together in some future book. Don't worry about that. I got a lot of fun stuff planned for the years to come, and I'm really looking forward to delivering on all that. So anyway, that's my sort of update and my tips today. Make sure that you are actually creating the correct metrics in your planning, in your goal making, because if you just look at word count only, this is the downside of looking at word count, is that I was so focused on making sure the word count happened properly to keep me on track. I didn't think about the fact that the book might not be the word count, that it might be longer, might be shorter, and I should have focused on the plot elements to drive me forward. And I'll probably do that on the next bit of planning process that I do if I want to do this in a condensed fashion. And for me to show that I can do something in a short amount of time, it'll be 40 days for a substantial book rather than 30 days for a short book. if I can do it, anyone can, right? It's not that I'm super special and I'm like an amazing special dude that can just do amazing things without even trying. It's really just that I know the process, and if you know the process, what one man can do, another can do. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I take the opposite approach. Nobody can do this. No, well, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And so that's a little bit of encouragement. If you're feeling stuck or that it takes too long, it's like, yeah, maybe it takes you twice as long, but you can do it. Yeah, 60 days, that's not that hard. 120 days, a year, right? So you can totally get through the process. You just have to be willing to see the steps and execute them and keep yourself on track to continue doing it. In some cases, if you have these little mini goals, that's going to make sure that you actually do finish on time and under budget, which can definitely help you out as an artist. So you guys have a good one, and I'll see you next time.